Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. Text 14. Shashvat Svarupa Mahasaiva Nipita Veda. Shashvat Svarupa Mahasaiva Nipita Veda. Mohaya Bodha Dishanaya Nama Parasmai. Mohaya Bodha Dishanaya Nama Parasmai. Vishvat Pavastiti Layeshu Nimitta Lida. Vishvat Pavastiti Layeshu Nimitta Lila. Rasayate nama idam Chakrimeshvaraya. Rasayate nama idam Chakrameshvaraya. Shashvat Svarupa Mahasaiva Nipita Veda. Mohaya Bodha Dishanaya Namat Parasmai. Vishvat Pavastiti Layeshu Nimitta Lila. Rasayate nama idam Chakrimeshvaraya. Shashvat Svarupa Mahasaiva Nipita Veda. Mohaya Bodha Dishanaya Nama Parasmai. Vishvat Pavastiti Layeshu Nimitta Lila. Rasayate nama idam Chakrimeshvaraya. Shashvat Svarupa Mahasaiva Nipita Veda. Mohaya Bodha Dishanaya Nama Parasmai. Vishvat Pavastiti Layeshu Nimitta Lila. Rasayate nama idam Chakrimeshvaraya. Shashvat Svarupa Mahasaiva Nipita Veda. Mohaya Bodha Dishanaya Nama Parasmai. Vishvat Pavastiti Layeshu Nimitta Lila. Rasayate nama idam Chakrimeshvaraya. Shashvat, eternally, Swarupa, transcendental form, Mahasa, by the glorious, Eva, certainly, Nipita, is distinguished, Veda, differentiation, Mohaya, unto the illusory conception, Bodha, self-knowledge, Dishanaya, intelligence, Namaha, obeisances, Parasmai, unto the transcendence, Vishva Udbhava, creation of the cosmic manifestation, Sthiti, maintenance, Layeshu, also destruction, Nimitta, for the matter of Lila, by such pastimes, Rasaya, for enjoyment, Te, unto you, Namaha, obeisances, Idam, this, Chakrima, do I perform, Isvaraya, unto the Supreme. Translation of Prabhupada by His Divine Grace, Abhayacharana Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Let me offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Transcendence, who is eternally distinguished by His internal potency. His indistinguishable impersonal feature is realized by intelligence for self-realization. I offer my obeisances unto Him who by His pastimes enjoys the creation, maintenance and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. Purport. The Supreme Lord is eternally distinguished from the living entities by His internal potency, although He is also understood in His impersonal feature by self-realized intelligence. Devotees of the Lord therefore offer all respectful obeisances unto the impersonal feature of the Lord. The word rasa is significant herein. The rasa dance is performed by Lord Krishna in the company of the cowed damsels at Vrindavana, and the personality of Godhead, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, is also engaged in rasa enjoyment with his external potency, by which he creates, maintains and dissolves the entire material manifestation. Indirectly, Lord Brahma offers his respectful obeisances unto Lord Sri Krishna, who is factually ever engaged in rasa enjoyment with the gopis, as confirmed in the Gopal Tapani Upanishad in the following words. Paradantesu abhutyatta gopavesho me purusha purastad avirbabhuva. The distinction between the Lord and the living entity is definitely experienced when there is sufficient intelligence to understand His internal potency, as distinguished from the external potency by which He makes possible the material manifestation. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyanananjana Shalakaya Chakshirun Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadate Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamshta Shri Rupam Saktachatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Chigatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Satere Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhya Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhya Vaishnavebhya Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you for coming or watching online our morning Bhagavatam class. So we are in the chapter Brahma's prayers for creative energy, as we've been discussing after he had the beautiful darshan of the Lord, after he had performed the tapasya according to the Lord's instruction, gotten His mercy to see the Lord and the whole spiritual abode, including Golok Vrindavan. And then one major part that we have been hearing was how Lord Brahma not only glorified the Lord directly, but expressed to him the compassion he felt for all the living entities for whom he has to do the creative service of creation, secondary creation, of course, as we know. Like today here we hear how actually Garbhodakashaya Vishnu is the original personality who creates, maintains and dissolves the cosmic manifestation of each universe. And then, Mahavishnu is the one into whom even Garbhodakashaya Vishnu from each universe merges back into when, at the end of one breath of Mahavishnu, as we know, from which all the, from one breath come all the universes, and then, again and again. So, and then we heard a few verses still similarly of how Lord Brahma understands also how or rather, like, first he was expressing meditating on the plight of what all those conditioned souls will have to go through, who rebel against the Lord and who thus get thrown into those different material bodies in different planets of this universe. And then now in the last several verses, Lord Brahma was explaining how the Lord is actually satisfied, and how He's not so much satisfied, the different levels of how, for example, by the demigods who in general are quite full of material desires, that He's not very much satisfied with them, even though He does empower them extraordinarily with all kind of material opulence and material powers, how they administer the whole universe, as we know, like wind, rain, sun, all of that is extremely powerful compared to us, and the power is coming originally from the Lord, of course, how He gives it to them, knowing them to be His faithful servants, but still He is not as satisfied as with pure devotees, because they generally want to do devotional service in exchange for some material power, material enjoyment. And then further he was pointing out about those who do pious activities, and not just pious activities like karma kanda, like in demigod worship, were directly full with selfish motive, but those who do understand that they want to please the Lord, they want to offer to the Lord, but still not pure devotional service, because they are attached to, like Isvaresvar Prabhu was explaining, that was yesterday's verse, of how many people are, especially those who might be more wealthy, might be attached to certain pompous ceremonies, like Prabhupada is explaining here, I think, like superficial rituals with, like, to either to show off to others or simply for themselves to feel a little proud, satisfied in that, yes, I have a lot of wealth and I want to engage that in a way that they consider as being nice or being something worthy to offer to the Lord. But they don't consider that actually to really be able to please the Lord, one has to fully surrender to a spiritual master who actually knows perfectly well what exactly pleases the Lord. So, and today, now we come to let me briefly touch on, in terms of demigod worship, of how demigods generally are not so, not pure devotees, but Sakam devotees, as that was 2 verses ago when Srimad Prabhu was explaining how, like in the Prabhupada explains between pure devotees who are nishkama, who do devotional service free from any material motive, and demigods generally are sakama devotees who do devotional service in expecting some material reward in exchange. But we do see some exceptions where demigods are pure devotees first of all, and then where those who worship them, even not with understanding Krishna to be the Supreme Lord, and that it's the purpose to serve Him, that they do direct their devotees even sometimes to Krishna's lotus feet. Like, for example, obviously we know Lord Brahma himself is a pure devotee, Lord Shiva, of course, and also their wives, Mother Parvati and Mother Saraswati. So, for example, with Mother Saraswati, in Chaitanya Charitamrita there's one nice example of the Dikvichai Pandit, what's his name, Keshava Bharati? No, not Keshava, Kashmiri? Keshava Kashmir, right, yeah. Thank you. So Keshava Kashmir, one very great scholar, was very devoted to Mother Saraswati, and that's how he got this great scholarship intelligence of how he could compose. For example, when he met Nima Pandit, Lord Chaitanya, how he recited, I think, 100 verses like right on the spot, like a wind, in glorification of Mother Ganga. And there, but yeah, Mahaprabhu showed him there the mercy by defeating him, by pointing out mistakes that he made, which the Pandit was couldn't even believe at first, because it never happened to him before, because Mother Saraswati was always blessing him with the full ability. But so that's why then when Mahaprabhu sent him back to come back the next day, he didn't humiliate him, because he knew that would just devastate him, and he would just whatever, but he would not be able to take shelter of him in that way. So then rather he told him humbly, please go back, study again, or offer the prayers, whatever, so on the next day we can continue again discussing on Shastra. And so when he did go back, then he prayed fervently to Mother Saraswati and told her that she did appear to him, I guess in the dream then, or I can't remember exactly, and he asked her, how is it you did bless me previously that I would never be defeated by anyone, because I have your mercy. And then she revealed to him that, well, I blessed you that you won't be defeated by anyone in this material world, but the personality whom you discussed with is not a personality from this material world. He is Sri Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so take shelter of him. And in that way, of course, he then did surrender to Mahaprabhu and became a devotee. So that there we see that, for example, a demigod who directs his devotee to pure devotional service to Krishna. Another famous story, of course, is Chandidas, right, who was worshipping Mother Parvati in the form of Chandi, and one day when he couldn't find any other flowers, found flowers which had been offered by his brother, I believe, to Lord Vishnu, and so then just by that, Mother Parvati was so pleased that he appeared to him, and I can't remember exactly the full story, but that he, at the end, he obviously also, by her mercy, realized that, that she told him that, because before I was never really pleased with all the offerings, but just by offering one time prasad of Lord Vishnu, that it pleased me so much more. So, and then he of course could understand that, and he should actually worship Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna. So there's several examples like that of demigod worship also leading to pure devotional service in special cases. And yes, but so to today's verse, Prabhupada first talks about because Lord Brahma is offering obeisances to the Lord's impersonal feature as well, by saying that, I'll just read the translation quickly again. So he's saying, let me offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Transcendence, who is eternally distinguished by his internal potency. His indistinguishable impersonal feature is realized by intelligence for self-realization. I offer my obeisances unto him who by his pastimes enjoys the creation, maintenance and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. So, in terms of offering, it doesn't occur so many times that we see that pure devotees talk about the impersonal feature of the Lord, because obviously they are attached to the Lord's personal feature, which is far superior. But it does occur sometimes, because obviously compared to anything material, even the Lord's impersonal feature is far superior. We know that the whole material manifestation is simply originating from a spark of the Lord's, from the rays of the Lord's Brahmajyoti, which pervade the whole spiritual sky. and part of it is then where the Mahatattva is for the cosmic manifestation. So similarly also Dhruva Maharaj, when he got the darshan of the Lord after his famous devotional service under the instruction of Narad Muni as a 5-year-old boy, 6 months his meditation, that he also, in that 4th canto, 9th chapter, verse number 16, where he also offers obeisances unto the Lord's impersonal feature first. And Srila Prabhupada explains there that because the Supreme Personality of God obviously is the original cause of everything, Sarvakarana Karanam, as we know, but Brahman is the immediate cause of the material manifestation. And that's why Dhruva Maharaj also offered respectful obeisances to Brahman. And it's interesting there in the purport, how Prabhupada explains, quoting Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, about how to also one angle to look at the impersonal feature of the Lord. So he's saying that the impersonal and personal realizations develop in proportion to the development of devotional service. And so in other words, we know there's Vadanti Tattva Vidas Tattvan Yatnyaman Advayam Brahmati Paramatmati Bhagavaniti Shaptyate, that there's those 3 features of the Supreme Absolute Truth, and Brahman realization is the first step, the lowest of those realizations, which means that and it's even, you can see that like imagining that there's a person and then the effulgence of the person goes far away, so simply approaching that alone, you can be still far away from the actual person. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur there gives the nice example of how when you, from Brahman realization to Paramatma realization to Bhagavan realization, he compares to proceeding towards a city where from the distance you might simply understand that there is a city situated at a distance just by seeing somehow some buildings, skyscrapers maybe nowadays. But then, so that's compared to Brahman realization. When you go a bit closer, then you can see some details like some domes, some flags. Obviously that was in somehow a few hundred years ago. Now you don't see really much domes and flags now, like I said, you see more skyscrapers or different industries. But so yeah, that's compared to Paramatma realization. And then when you actually enter into the city where you can do all kinds of activities, see many different living beings, many different other human beings whom you can interact with, and different facilities you can enjoy, then that is compared to Bhagavan realization. So that's in terms of how devotees sometimes also do offer their respectful obeisances unto the Lord's impersonal feature, like Lord Brahma is doing here. And then to the second part about, one more thing I wanted to say about impersonal realization was, anyway, I'll come back to it, I forgot now. So in terms of how Prabhupada is explaining here, because in the verse it says how the Lord, who by his pastimes enjoys the creation, maintenance and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. And Prabhupada is even comparing it to the Ras Lila, which is, at first might seem quite far out, because it's quite easy to understand, even for a materialistic mind, that okay, Krishna, he's enjoying the Ras dance, dancing with beautiful cowherd girls at the dead of night, but how is he enjoying creation, maintenance and dissolution? And obviously that's only if we look from a materially contaminated viewpoint, because even the Ras dance, it has nothing to do with our conception that we would have of how men and women enjoy, but like Prabhupada, and that's why one reason, I guess, why in this purport he's making the direct comparison of many times you would point out that first, rather than like we heard recently, I think Kamsai Sena Prabhu was mentioning the Gopi Baba club at one time when devotees were just focusing on reading the confidential pastimes of Krishna with the gopis or Chaitanya Charitamrita, rather than neglecting everything else, following all the other instructions of Srila Prabhupada. And obviously, that's on the spiritual platform there is a distinction, but Prabhupada focused always on, for neophytes like us, it's much more important first to understand that on the absolute plane there is no distinction. It's all the same absolute truth, whether the Lord does creation, maintenance and dissolution of this cosmic manifestation or any other pastimes like killing demons, or whether he dances with the gopis. It's all on the absolute platform. And for example, it's we see that so beautifully in all the Lord's pastimes, actually, in the whole of Srimad Bhagavatam, how it's you always see both sides of Krishna's enjoying, and that's why it's so important to always hear and read Srimad Bhagavatam, how Krishna can enjoy in killing so many demons, as we hear right from his birth, as a little baby, like with Putana, for example, or Shakatasura, where he as a tiny baby just by a slight kick of killed the cart demon, or then a bit after that with Trinavarta, who came as a whirlwind demon, where we see also very nicely of how this, which otherwise might seem contradictory, of how the Lord can enjoy and how the Lord can be the creator and maintainer of this whole cosmic manifestation, but at the same time appear as a small baby and enjoy killing demons. So there with Trinavarta, for example, we know that he in general in the Vrindavan Lila, he always remained in his form or whatever size he had at that time as a baby, and did not expand or do any, he did obviously exhibit so many inconceivable acts, but he did it still with his sweetness as a baby. So in the case with Trinavarta also, for example, actually there in the pastime we see many inconceivable features he shows, which might seem contradictory also if you don't understand that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who has full of inconceivable potencies. So, because there we know he was actually lying on the lap of Mother Yashoda, right? And then because he had the desire to get an aerial view of Vrindavan and to get a kind of like a roller coaster ride up in the sky, so he knew that this Trinavarta is around, so he exhibited then, like we recently heard in Uddhava Gita, how Uddhava asked Krishna about the different mystic perfections of mystic yoga, and some of them Krishna exhibited here, because Krishna explained there to Uddhava that those 8 Ashtasiddhis, the supermost perfections, they get their potency directly from his internal potency, even though they are material. But of course the material perfections that yogis can get here, they are not the full manifestation as they would be by Krishna in the spiritual form, but still they get directly empowered by his internal potency, in contrast to the other mystic perfections which come simply from the mode of goodness. And so there he exhibited first, I think anima, right, is the heavier than the heaviest? Or Lagima is light. Yeah, anima is small. Anima is small. Then it's So Mahima is then heavy. Yeah, so it must have been Mahima. So first that he made himself extremely heavy, so that Mother Yashoda had to put him down from her lap, and because obviously he didn't want her to become completely frightened about a demon just coming there and catching him, so that she had to put him down, and then the demon, anyway, he created this whole huge whirlwind so that no one could see anything actually, and in that way then no one could understand that he is taken by a demon. so that he could picking up. And of course then immediately Krishna made himself then Lagima, lighter than the lightest, so that very easily Trinavarta could taking up into the sky, high up. And then Krishna, to kill him, that's one of the amazing points of how he maintained his tiny form, but he at the same time he did this Trinavarta demon, who was big demon of course, he choked simply with his tiny baby hands. And choking means you have to take around the throat. But yeah, the Lord can do that. And then of course again he exhibited then that he was heavier than the heaviest, that the demon crashed down onto the floor and dead of course. So yeah, there's many beautiful exhibitions of the Lord showing how he can enjoy so many different things, that his enjoyment is not according to our material conception. And okay, yeah, one more point I wanted to make for the impersonal feature that Prabhupada is, or even Lord Brahma in the verse is explaining how it's realized by where is it in the Prabhupada? By self-realized intelligence. So, because by simply without the Lord's and the devotee's mercy, that's the highest that you can get to realize the impersonal feature, to realize that this material world is not a place of enjoyment, and that there's something higher than that, which is from which it comes, which is the Lord's impersonal feature. At the same time, we know it's mentioned that even for Brahman realization and for Paramatma realization, still always a tinge of bhakti is needed, because you still depend on the Lord's mercy. But yeah, it's called the self-realized intelligence, that they can realize this impersonal feature. And yeah, in terms of in terms of here the example with the Ras dance, which I already discussed a bit, obviously, it's wrong to think that okay, we know what enjoyment is, because our mentality, materially contaminated, would always be that of wanting to overload material nature, so one with selfish desires, with wanting to exploit something else and someone else. Whereas, on the spiritual platform, it's completely the opposite of that no one exploits anyone, but rather it's completely selfless, pure love. And we see also, I was thinking in terms of how amazing it is. Okay, the Lord, He can enjoy not only those sweet pastimes, but even creation, maintenance, and dissolution of this cosmic manifestation. It's even one more point I want to mention in terms of, like Prabhupada many times he would say when we would jump to and wanting to understand the Ras Lila, especially prematurely, that first we should understand the Kurukshetra Lila also, where Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita. And I recently started reading Bhagavad Gita after a long time, so in the first chapter now, and there we see obviously also how Krishna for all our benefit he puts Arjuna into illusion, although he's a pure devotee, Nityasiddha devotee. But under this illusion, then Arjuna thinks also in the material terms of that he would not be. How would he ever be able to be happy if he kills all his friends and relatives? And again, it's similar as we see with the Lord's enjoyment. Here also for pure devotees, enjoyment is also completely transcendental and doesn't work according to our conception. So in that case, obviously we know his real enjoyment only comes when at the end, when he agrees to act according to Krishna's will and become his instrument, and to fight in the Kurukshetra war. And there's one nice example also where this theme Prabhupada explains very nicely of understanding what's real enjoyment. That's in first chapter, text 32 to 35, where Arjuna is expressing of how could there be any enjoyment if I kill all those who are dear to me, and I would not and he is saying that he would not even care for heaven if he would would lead him to be able to go to heaven for heavenly enjoyments, or in exchange for the free balls or anything like that. So, and he's addressing Krishna here as O Govinda, and Prabhupada that's what he's focusing in the purport, where I'll just briefly read that. It's very, very beautiful how Prabhupada explains that. So Srila Prabhupada is writing, Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for cows and the senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses, but Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. So, that's under the illusion which Krishna put him under. Arjuna is addressing Krishna as Govinda, thinking that, you're called Govinda, the giver of pleasure to the senses, as Prabhupada explains here, object of all pleasures for cows and the senses. So you should know that, you should understand all of that, all the arguments that Arjuna is putting forward to him. Then how come you still want me to fight? It doesn't make any sense. And so I'll just continue here. Prabhupada is saying that materially everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda all desires of the living entity are satisfied. And Prabhupada is further elaborating on how Arjuna was thinking, obviously as we know, in terms of material calculation of his relationship with all the relatives there, and how he should have thought simply what Krishna wants, that is what pleases Krishna, and that indirectly we know pleases him. That's the whole idea of how real enjoyment comes, that we, as parts and parcels of the Lord, by pleasing him, by engaging our senses, not for trying to please our senses separately, but by trying to please his senses, that we get to participate in his unlimited enjoyment, and therefore get also inconceivable happiness. So, and one other example that I was hearing some weeks ago, which I wanted to share, trying to share something, is one famous disciple of Ramanujacharya, Kuresh, who, when you hear about his story, it also shows very much of how real happiness has nothing to do with how we would think of. Because he was, Kuresh, his very name comes from that he was an extremely rich landlord of a whole area called Kura. So Isha we know means lord or controller, so that's why he was called Kuresh. And he had a very faithful, devoted wife called Andal. So both of them were great devotees. And I think even Ganesh Prabhu recently mentioned about him especially in terms of charity, that he was so charitable that he would, right in the morning, Mangalati time, open the gates, and till evening after 9 o'clock Arti, that the whole time people would line up, would be allowed to just come in and take whatever charity they would need. So that's how wealthy he was and how charitable he was. And so much so that one time in the nearby temple of Lord Varadaraj, so that's in Kanchipura, that he tells Mother Lakshmi that, Mother Lakshmi is hearing one night this screeching sound of the gate being closed, and she's wondering, because like Ganesh Prabhu explained, when Vedic times, it's people don't go to bed late. So to hear a gate, any sound at that time is surprising. So that's why she was asking Varadaraj, who is, what's this sound? And he explained to her that it's the gate being closed by this devotee Kuresh who the whole day gives charity until that time. And then she calls for this devotee that she wants to see him. I remember, maybe she tells them to Kanchi Purna, because there's one pure devotee there at that time. We know that those pastimes of Ramanujacharya and the Sri Sampradaya, they were about 1,000 years ago. So at that time there was one pure devotee there in the temple of Varadaraj called Kanchipura, Purna, town is Kanchipurna, who was so elevated that he would regularly just converse directly with the Lord. So many times we hear in those pastimes that the Lord would speak to him and to tell something to other personalities or other devotees. So I can't remember for sure, but it might have been him who told then who called for Kuresh to go there. But what did Kuresh do? Because someone with any tinge of material desires, he would be very ecstatic hearing that the goddess of fortune is calling for him because she wants to bless him. But what did he think? He thought, who am I? I'm such a low creature and how can I go before the goddess of fortune, being glorified for my charity? Well, what is my charity? She's the origin of all wealth. And so that's why further Ganesh Prabhu, he explained how he knew that, okay, then he would become famous there, that the goddess of fortune called him and directly he should go there and blessed him. So for those two reasons, I have to finish the first reason. So he was thinking I'm not worthy to go there, and also then he was thinking, I think I heard that from Radhanath Swami Maharaj, that actually I'm full of false ego, thinking, I'm such a great person who is so wealthy, who can give so much in charity, who gives all of so many people who are maintained by me, who always depend on my charity. So this shows I'm just full of false ego. I'm not a real devotee. For those two reasons, he just gives everything in charity, and walks away along with his wife. And this shows because even from a devotee perspective, you might think, well, how come he could engage the devotee who is wealthy, like we discussed it recently. There's devotees who were wealthy and who did engage it very nicely in the Lord's service, like Barbara Bhushan was explaining about King Prataparudra, like in the Vijay, or what's it called, Lakshmi Vijay festival, and the Hera Panchami festival, and the Ratha Yatra itself, and as a king. And then when on the Lord's attempt to go to Vrindavan, how he even built in those different villages houses newly just for the Lord to travel through and get all the boga there, and also Buddhimanta Khan, and there's many examples. So, but in that case here, Kuresh displayed not to remain like that and serve the Lord, but he was simply had this humility of thinking, no, I'm contaminated, I should just give it up. And so they went away. And as they were traveling then, with no possessions, then one night his wife Andal became frightened when they were in some dark forest, I believe. And so Kuresh was asking her, how come you're frightened? We simply depend on the Lord's protection, He's merciful, so there is nothing to fear. The only cause that one has fear is if one has material attachments. So, do you have anything? And then she says, well, the only possession I took is one small golden bowl, which I used to serve you, for serving you prasad. And then, understanding that, she immediately throws it into the forest. And, so it shows again, even for, we know, as conditioned souls who are in female bodies, for them generally the tendency is even more attachment to material things, to like having proper material facilities. For them it's even harder to take on austerities. That's why generally in Shastra it's not enjoined that women should go to the forest, renounce everything, those kind of austerities. But we see here even his wife Andal was on such a platform. And I'll quickly try to get there to the famous part of where we know how, or you might have heard, how Ramanujacharya was had one of those desires that he wanted to fulfill of his predecessor of Yamanujacharya was to write a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And for that his understanding was there was one particular scripture which was very important for him to use, to quote, to write his commentary. But at that time there was only one copy in one particular town, I forgot the name. And so that's why he, along with some of his associates, went there trying to get it. But that town was full of Mayavadis, and so when they came there, the Mayavadis, they could understand, because by that time Ramanujacharya was very spiritually powerful, had like many disciples, and so much success in the preaching. So that the Mayavadis were obviously scared of him and didn't want his influence to increase even more, and they understood why he's asking for that scripture, and so they were desperate not to give it to him. So, and there was one deity, was it also Mother Saraswati, I believe, whom they were worshipping there faithfully also, even though they were Mayavads. And so Ramanujacharya then said that, how did it go? That he put this scripture in front here of Mother Saraswati, and if it's still there, I can't remember if it goes this way or the other way around. That on the next day, then it means that she wants me to have it. Or no, if it's still there, it means she doesn't want me to have it. Yeah. Because the story goes that they bribed the puchari to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere, that it stays there. But Mother Saraswati does, to his great surprise, at one point he sees that she's holding the book. And so then he takes it back, and I think they actually then even burn it, thinking that they are burning it. But on the next day they see that when Ramanujacharya comes there, then he asks him, well, check, maybe she's hiding it in her hair, and then indeed it is there, and then so it turns out that she had created a false copy, or a copy which they burnt, and had hidden the real copy in her hair. Just she wanted her pure devotee Ramanujacharya to have it. But then it turns, as the pastime goes, that as they travel back, the Mayavadis there, they engage some dacoits, a kind of those rough people who then attack them as they travel back and take away the scripture. And so then, they are very devastated. But then, by that time, then Kuresh is telling Ramanujacharya that I have been given this blessing by the Lord that I am able to, just by reading something, to fully remember everything. So I'll be able to quote you whatever you need. Actually, that was not the part I wanted to come to. How did the pastime go? Where Kuresh is, and along with Mahapurna, where they are taken to prison. Yeah, okay, no, I think that was, that was another pastime actually. Okay, I'll quickly try. So that was another time when there was one king who was a worshipper of Lord Shiva, and he had one minister who had been actually a servant of, a disciple of Kuresh, but who deviated, who rejected his mercy and took up Mayavad, like this king, and so he tells one time to the king that if you really want to establish because this king was like for enforcing his philosophy onto others, using his influence in that way, and so one time this minister tells him that actually if you want to be really successful in that, then you have to get rid of Ramanujacharya, because he's so powerful, you won't have any success as long as he's here. And so, hearing that, then the king orders to Ramanujacharya to come and for debate. But Kuresh, knowing the mind of this former disciple, tells that to Ramanujacharya that if you go there, you won't come back alive. So you're so important. So many thousands of people depend on your mercy, and so rather let me go. I am just an insignificant, very unworthy disciple of yours, so please let me go. I'll disguise myself, and they don't even know you personally, so they won't catch it. They'll think that I'm you. So he